let's move on to Europe. Or what kind of scenarios you see in Europe? What's the best case scenario and what's the worst case scenario? Earlier, Citi Investment Report appears to suggest that Greece, will have to leave the Euro Zone pretty soon. There is a 90% chance, of Greece will be doing so.
That's right. Our chief economist, Phil Mbauder, and our entire economics team has really done quite a lot of analysis on this area. And I think we're pretty much on the forefront of that analysis. And what we're saying is that there are a lot of challenges that face the euro area, but many of them are come back to the political answer I just gave before. The question is there enough political will to get the fiscal federalism that's needed to improve the ability of the common currency area to function? We know that since Maastricht, when the euro area was first set up, it was missing some of the elements that would really make the common currency a viable institution.
Such as?
A way of transferring
fiscal union,
right?
Yeah.
Banking union, guaranteed deposit guarantees that guarantee for exchange rate changes, a resolution regime, and recapitalization schemes.
And the awkward bureaucracy, because when they have meetings, they need 17 head of states, 17 finance ministers, 17 parliaments, to approve on the same package.
And so it's always been a delay tactic that the hard decisions to put these elements together were known in 1998, and they have still been delayed up till now. And now, as the crisis gets much more complex and much more severe, we are still faced with the same decisions, and whether or not the politicians will be able to put these institutions in place is the big question. And so you're right, our assessment of the situation in Europe falls on the ability of the political will to get these institutions put in place.
So what's your assessment of countries like Spain? Because money is drying up, in the system. You can't get your hands on the euro, because the euro is taking a flight, to other countries like Switzerland or Germany. And with this, the people have nothing no money to hold on, and they are resorting back to the old days of the barter system. So what's the way out, for countries like Spain or Italy next year?
I think that the way out is to really address their fundamental problems, right? Getting their house in order on the fiscal side, on the banking side. And the key is to be able to strengthen the banking system in a way that allows them to function again, to recapitalize, restructure the banking systems, to be able to let them be able to function as financial intermediaries. Right now, their loan portfolio and housing market in Spain is something that is almost unknown, because it's hard to say what the valuation of the real estate market is going to be given the uncertain situation. But putting some political certainty in, being able to say we can, in fact, and Draghi has done exactly that, and said we are assuring you that you have the funding available if you put in place the infrastructure and the required fiscal policy to be able to get a more permanent solution. And so it's almost a cat and mouse game of who moves first. And I think both sides are trying to achieve that middle. And again, the elections in Greece showed how difficult that was to achieve. Samaras won by the smallest of margins, and there it was, the issue was we need to be in the euro because of the benefits of a common currency, but at the same time, in order to be sustainably in the euro, we need to have all this austerity, all of these adjustments. And are the Greek citizens willing to be able to put up with that kind of austerity, right? Or would they just say enough is enough? And that's where our assessment comes in that you just mentioned earlier about it's hard to be able to ask a population to go through that kind of adjustment for so long.
So you don't anticipate a euro breakup in any major way, even though some smaller countries might be better off leaving the Eurozone.
We think the euro is pretty secure because the benefits of a common currency have been well known since 1998. And I think the issue is, will the politicians be able to get the political will to make sure that's a solid, sustainable foundation? And there again, right, we know what to do. Can we do it? And I think the benefits of having a common currency are so tremendous, so big, that everyone is going to realize the cost is way too high for any
But at the same time, the Germans, don't want to finance the bailout, like open-ended bailouts.
No one wants to write an open-ended checking, open-ended checks to somebody, and that's why they insist that we are funding the adjustment. We're buying time for everyone to do the adjustments that are needed, to put in the institutions that are needed. And are you using the time we're buying wisely? And that's in some ways what the debate is all about. Are you using the time wisely? And the Germans actually very much need to have the Eurozone in place, because just imagine any kind of scenario where Germany is almost standing alone. Their currency would appreciate so much that it would threaten the viability of their export.
Europe is in far worse shape than the United States. What's your time frame, for improvements, with these two important economic zones?
Well, whenever our clients ask me that question, I like to point out a study that was done by the IMF by some of my colleagues. Structural policies, in order to have growth-enhancing structural policies that improve the productivity of labor, improve the competitiveness of countries that are running current account deficits, those structural policies take on the order of 5, maybe even 10 years to put in place. Fiscal policies to stabilize the debt to GDP ratio, to be able to control the debt, the sovereign debt crisis. Those kind of policies take something on the order of 3 to 5 years just to stabilize things, not to. So we're talking, time frames for fiscal and structural policies that go into multi-years. And so to ask the ECB, right, to fund and buy time, the time frame we need to buy is that kind of horizon. And nothing will work unless people in the markets believe that the structural policies that are being put in place are real, and they're actually going to be put in place and sustained. They're not going to. The markets are not going to cooperate unless they believe the fiscal policy adjustments are in place, real and sustainable.
Going through the adjustment that you have just mentioned, are we vulnerable to another global shocks?
And that's
or a banking crisis? I mean, can Asia decouple, from the shocks?
One nice thing about Asia is that if you look at analysis that I talk to our clients about, a euro area shock in the banking system, a credit crunch, would hurt Europe for sure. Eastern Europe, yes, North Africa, but Asia and North America and Latin America will be less affected, much less affected, because the trade links are smaller, the banking links are smaller. So in some ways, Asia is protected because it has not only smaller trade and financial links, but also there are a lot of banks within Asia that are ready to step in and fill the gap, to supply the credit that the European banks are leaving behind. And there's certainly global banks standing ready with dollar funding to be able to fill the role of getting trade, maintaining trade and sustaining trade within Asia and also the rest of the world.